Welcome back to NewsX World. I'm Joshua Barnes and you're watching Focal Length, where we get you a briefing on topics from across the world. India and the United States have built a strong, dynamic economic partnership over decades, driven by shared democratic values, economic interests and strategic goals. But what is the future of Indian business and investment in the USA? What roles can the two countries play in sustainable solutions and formulating policies that will shape these ties? Joining us now is Alexander Slater, the former Managing Director of the US-India Business Council. Thank you, Mr. Slater, for joining us. He's studied at various prestigious institutions such as Harvard Law School, Oxford University and Yale University. He's been a member of the Bar of the District of Columbia as well as the State of New York. He has also served as the Senior Financial Officer of the World Bank. Let's find out. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Alexander Slater. My first question to you is looking at which are the key industries that the US is focusing on to collaborate with India.
In terms of the US-India partnership, there are several areas of closer cooperation that are leading the agenda this year. As always, given India's digital expertise and the United States leadership in this area, I think there'll be a lot of work together on the digital economy, whether this is under certain initiatives between the two countries, like the Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies, focused on cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, 5G, 6G telecommunications, semiconductors, biotechnology, and quantum computing, and also the startup ecosystems, where in the past, there's been a lot of venture capital interest from the United States in Indian small businesses and helping them expand and grow here to sell products globally. So those are two areas in particular where I think the two countries will continue to work closely together over time. After Prime Minister Modi's visit to the United States in June of last year, I think there's also opportunities in defense, emerging technologies, and the transition to a green economy.
Besides defence, which are the newer areas of cooperation between India and the United States?
It's a great question. I think that there's a lot of interest in enhancing the defense supply chain between the two countries. We have done at USIBC a lot of work with the Society of Indian Defense Manufacturers to create closer connections between Indian defense startups and procurers in the United States, whether that be large defense companies or the Defense Department itself. Earlier this year, in February, we hosted the NewsX conference in New Delhi, following up on the initial instance of this initiative in Washington, D.C. in June of last year. And it was very successful in bringing together senior officials from the Ministry of Defense in India, the Defense Department in the United States, and major companies, so that they could see all of the good work that Indian defense companies and startups are doing and ways that we might work together to enhance the defense supply chain and to bring the two countries more closely together as they think about doing more together across the world to promote a safe, open, prosperous, and free Indo-Pacific region.
How important is it for US businesses to exchange R&D work towards Making India initiative?
I think it's critical. One of the key areas about research and development is that India has a wonderful set of engineering talent generated from the IITs. And this means that when it comes to research and development, there's a lot of potential for American companies to do work in India. And you see many of them, if they haven't already established R&D centers here in India, that they plan to do so. We know that there'll be a lot of work, for example, in the semiconductor space, that several companies have committed to enhancing either training here for semiconductor engineers or opening up engineering centers. I'm thinking about Lam Research, for example, and Applied Materials. And so I'm really excited about all the work that's already been done in this area and that will continue to be done in this area. I do think that there is room for India to further supercharge its presence as an R&D center, and it's critical because this will mean that additional intellectual property will actually and value will be created here in India. And so incentives to create research and development platforms here in India will be critical, both for partnerships between domestic and foreign companies, but also for foreign companies seeking to set up shop here and really take advantage of the talented workforce that India produces from elite schools like the IITs.
What role can India and the US play in building sustainable, responsible AI infrastructure?
The Initiative on Critical and Emerging Technologies is an area or a platform where both India and the United States are already working together closely to promote responsible use of artificial intelligence. Last year, the White House put out its own views on AI governance and how to move forward with artificial intelligence in an effective manner. And I do know that India, which is leading the GPI initiative this year, is also working on a set of guidelines for the responsible use of artificial intelligence. The United States brings huge amounts of resources and computing power to the AI conversation, and India, given its huge population, brings huge amounts of data. And so I think that there's a real opportunity for the two countries to come together and set the global standard for the responsible use of AI and the applicability of AI. We at the U.S.-India Business Council are very much involved in this issue, and earlier this year launched our AI Governance and Applicability Initiative. And so we'll be working with our U.S. and Indian members to help the governments develop policy frameworks that are complementary and that will allow the two countries to set the global standard in these areas. And what's key about that is that will mean that U.S. and Indian companies will be at the forefront of the AI revolution, and ensuring that it both enhances productivity and human well-being and keeps us safe and used responsibly.
Are there India-US semiconductor joint venture on the anvil?
I think there's a lot of opportunity for the US and India to continue good work together in the semiconductor space. Building a semiconductor supply chain is a long-term effort. And I know that the United States has already undertaken certain grants to improve the semiconductor fabrication infrastructure in the United States, and I'm looking forward to seeing good output from there. In the US-India cooperation space, we've seen wonderful commitments coming out of the June 2023 state visit from Prime Minister Modi to Washington, D.C. This includes Micron's commitment of hundreds of millions of dollars that could potentially become billions of dollars to establish a testing and assembly plant in Gujarat. I know that the ground has already broken on that, and that the government of India has provided substantial support to make that happen and to expand that presence. And so I'm really bullish about that, because ensuring that there is a robust packaging, testing, and assembly supply chain for India and the United States is critical, since a lot of that is now concentrated in East Asia. And diversifying that supply chain will be important to its resilience and security over time. So I think there's some good work to be done there. Over time, the more that India can expand its presence in the packaging, testing, and assembly space for semiconductors, including beyond what Micron is doing, there'll be opportunities to really create a robust semiconductor ecosystem in India that could lead to it becoming a locus for fabrication, in addition to packaging, testing, and assembly, and of course, semiconductor design, where India already is at the forefront. Many of USIBC's members, for example, many of our semiconductor members, already talk about a close to 24-hour design cycle, because teams in the US take over, hand off their work at the end of the day, and it is taken over by teams in India to move forward with these designs. And so, India already has some very good work in this area, working across the corridor, and I'm looking forward to it expanding over time.
How can India and the US work together towards tech and sustainable solutions that can aid global energy transition?
There's a lot of opportunity for the US and India to do good work together to accelerate the energy transition. I know India has made a big commitment to ramp up its role as a producer of solar modules, for example, both by providing support to the domestic ecosystem in that area, and to building some of the largest solar module manufacturing facilities in the world, whether that be in Tamil Nadu or in Gujarat. A lot of good work here is underway by companies like Tata Power and Adani Green Energy. And so we're really enthusiastic to see These companies, for example, create both a huge amount of domestic supply on a cost-effective basis, and for these to be exported to the United States to help the United States meet its substantial renewable energy goals. So I think that's one in particular area of robust cooperation that we will see coming online rapidly in the future, because India is really going to be a major exporter of solar modules over time. In addition, I think that in the EV revolution, we all know that rare earths and critical minerals are key to battery inputs and to these new kinds of cars. And India and the United States can do a lot of good work there together as well. India has joined the Mineral Security Partnership, which is an initiative among the United States and allies in Europe to build out a supply chain for critical minerals and rare earths that is both robust and resilient and environmentally friendly. And so we're eager to see good results from that work together. And of course, under the Initiative in Critical Emerging Technologies, green technologies have been identified as a key area of support. And so I would expect that platform to enable India and the United States to make substantial advances in this area. I do know that there's a lot that tech transfer can also do, for example, to help India meet its robust renewable energy goals, especially in the wind power space.
Which are the arenas US IBC is looking at acting as a facilitator between US-India businesses?
Look, this year is a year where both India and the United States are in election cycles. And so the governments are understandably going to be inward focused and managing those processes. However, last year, I think both the Biden and Modi administrations showed great foresight in setting up 3 platforms to facilitate a commercial cooperation across the US-India corridor. Two of which I've already mentioned. One is the Initiative in Critical and Emerging Technologies, and the other is NewsX, which is this defense innovation bridge to create a more resilient defense supply chain involving startups and small businesses in India and the United States. The third is called the Innovation Handshake. USIBC is intimately involved in all 3. We are, in fact, the official US partner for all 3 of these platforms. And in November of last year, on the sidelines of the APEX summit in San Francisco, with Minister Goyal of Commerce and Secretary Raimondo of the US Department of Commerce, we launched this initiative, which is really focused on strengthening the bilateral innovation ecosystem between India and the United States and making it more inclusive. Recently, we held the Indian version of this in New Delhi and had wonderful participation from Indian startups, venture capital firms, and successful startups and government representatives, where they were able to share knowledge among themselves to understand how they could more deeply integrate into the bilateral ecosystem for innovation. And also, they were able to provide feedback to government officials on what the 2 sides could do together to enhance innovation and cooperation across the corridor. So we're really active in all these areas of emerging and critical technologies, defense innovation, and innovation more generally. And we're really excited about the direction that these initiatives are taking the bilateral partnership.
What kind of policy changes would US businesses want from the Indian government for ease of doing business?
So I think the government of India has really leaned into efforts to try and attract foreign businesses to the United States, to India. I think that they've set as a priority making India an export hub to the world and lowering logistics costs in the country. These are both laudable goals, and I think they are areas of improvement that will ultimately pay fruits down the road, both in terms of job creation and economic growth. And in some ways, they already are doing so. I think the product-linked incentive schemes have shown substantial traction in some areas and have been enhanced with industry feedback in others. I think that the one thing that I might underscore in this area is that when there's a transparent, predictable, and consistent consultation environment between government and industry, we really see that the quality of regulations goes up. And that's because nobody has all the right answers. It's very hard, whether you're a government official or a business, to understand what the other side is focused on and dealing with, because everyone has their own priorities. But when the 2 sides come together, talk about what they're trying to accomplish, share their views on how the ecosystems that are subject to rules and regulations work and the incentives that the different parties have in them, there's lots of opportunity to make progress. whether it's making sure that cutting edge medicines are able to make it into India faster, or regulations are put in place to protect consumer safety, that at the same time put in place the right incentives to facilitate investment. These are things that can be done in tandem and achieve shared goals when there is transparent, consistent, and predictable consultation between industry and government. And so to the extent that India doubles down on that, I think it would be much appreciated, and you'd see wonderful results. And there are several parts of the government of India that already do really good work in this area.
Thank you very much, Alexander Slater, for speaking to us on Focal Length. With that, it's a wrap on this episode. For more international news updates, stay tuned on NewsX World.